On a factory floor, a massive rotating machine spins without pause, one step too close, and danger is instant. It's a typical morning in the workshop. A worker approaches a lathe-like rotating machine running at full speed. There is no guardrail, no physical barrier. He leans in perhaps to check alignment, perhaps to make a minor adjustment. In seconds, his clothing brushes too near. The worker is caught, pulled toward the rotation, and in an instant he's pulled off balance and loses control. What seemed like a harmless inspection becomes a catastrophic entanglement. Never, ever approach a rotating machine while it is in motion. No matter how small the adjustment may seem, the hazard is absolute. A delivery truck speeds down the road, boxes rattling in the back. One worker finishes checking the packages and goes to sit when the unthinkable happens. Behind the driver and the worker, stacks of cardboard boxes sit on narrow shelves. The worker crouches briefly, scanning a package, then turns, ready to sit down again. But unlike most trucks, his seat isn't fixed. It's a folding jump seat, the kind designed to save space in the tight cabin. Normally, it locks upright and only folds when intentionally released. This time, though, it's already folded flat against the wall, barely noticeable in the blur of motion. Without looking, he drops backward, expecting the seat to catch him. But instead of support, there's only air. His body plunges toward the open space, momentum carrying him suddenly down. He crashes onto the hard metal floor, arms flailing, scanner clutched tight in his hand, and eventually falling out of the vehicle. The folded seat, harmless in appearance, has betrayed him. The hazard wasn't just the fall, it was the assumption. Inside moving vehicles, nothing can be taken for granted. Folding seats must always be locked, checked, and secured before use. And workers should never rely on instinct alone when sitting down in a moving environment. A truck begins to roll forward on its own. The driver scrambles, racing to get back to the cab. But in his rush to stop it, the machine he commands turns against him. A red cab truck is parked along the edge, its green trailer looming long behind it. The driver climbs onto the back to work, adjusting something on the load. But there's a mistake. The truck isn't properly secured. No firm brake, no lock in place. At first, it seems still. Then the massive vehicle begins to creep forward. The driver realizes it instantly. Panic cuts through routine. He has only one thought: get back to the seat, get to the brakes, stop the truck before it moves further. He climbs down in a rush, feet scrambling against the metal frame. Every second counts. But in his haste, control slips away. One misstep and he loses balance. Instead of reaching the cab, he falls. The tires are already turning, the weight already in motion. In an instant, the very truck he's trying to stop overtakes him. Never, ever leave a truck unsecured. A vehicle without its brakes locked is not parked. It's a rolling hazard waiting to move. And when it moves, it won't stop for the very person who tries to chase it. On the busy loading yard at a food warehouse, one worker was cleaning and failed to notice a truck reversing into his blind spot. It was a routine day in the freight yard. Trucks lined up for unloading, engines idling, workers moving quickly in every direction. A worker stood in the open lane, focused on a red truck approaching from the front as he swept. His eyes locked on that danger, but the noise of engines and shifting gears drowned out the sound of another risk building behind him. As the truck in front moved toward him, instinct drove him to step sideways, a fast dodge to avoid its path. But in that split-second decision, he moved directly into the blind path of another truck that was reversing slowly into position. The driver in that truck couldn't see the worker tucked low in his mirror's blind spot. The worker, now focused only on the danger ahead, never looked back despite the shouts of the spotter. The reversing truck brushed against him, just enough to throw off his balance in the middle of the yard. Never, ever assume you're safe just because your eyes are on one danger. Another can approach silently from behind. Workers must stay alert in all directions, not just the obvious front. High visibility gear, spotters, and strict no-go zones around moving trucks are not optional. They are lifelines. Inside a steel plant, a single mistake near a moving coil is enough to turn routine work into a deadly trap. On the factory floor, heavy steel coils are moved by cranes and set into machines with precision. Workers stand close by, guiding the placement, their focus split between the controls and the sheer weight of the material around them. At this moment, one worker steps dangerously close to the suspended coil. The crane lowers the massive roll of steel, but as it swings, the worker gets caught in its path. In an instant, the force of the coil knocks him off his feet, sending him sprawling as it swings past. What looked like a controlled maneuver spirals into chaos. Never, ever stand within the swing radius of a suspended load. Even a slight shift or sway can transform thousands of pounds of material into a battering ram. Factories demand distance, awareness, and respect for suspended loads. The safest step is always one taken back, never forward into danger. In a busy kitchen, one misstep with a powerful machine turns routine work into chaos. The worker was walking past a sugarcane juicer, a common sight in many small food stalls. With tools and supplies scattered close to the machine, she moved quickly, trying to keep up with the pace of her tasks. The juicer's rollers spun steadily, loud but familiar, blending into the background noise of the kitchen. As she stepped past, her loose clothing snagged on the rollers. In an instant, it tugged her backward, pulling her off balance. She stumbled toward the spinning machine, scrambling to break free as co-workers rushed in to shut it down. What started as a quick step past the juicer turned into a dangerous entanglement risk. In every kitchen, factory, or workshop, machines demand respect. Guards, barriers, and spacing aren't inconveniences. They're lifelines. A few inches of distance can be the difference between routine work and a life-altering moment. In a furnace yard blazing with molten fire, one worker pushes a wheelbarrow too close, and in seconds, the furnace takes him. Inside a steel factory, the furnace roared like an open volcano. Workers are scattered around the floor, handling scrap and moving equipment. One man pushes a wheelbarrow loaded with material toward the furnace. It looks like routine work, just another load to feed into the fire. But as he edges forward, disaster ignites. The molten bath erupts with explosive force. A violent burst of flames and molten spray surges outward, striking the wheelbarrow and scattering material across the floor. The sudden blast sends workers stumbling back in shock. What looked routine turns into a furnace eruption in seconds. Never, ever position yourself directly in front of an active furnace. One surge, one eruption, and escape is impossible. Working near molten metal requires barriers, remote tools, and strict safe distances. A wheelbarrow may carry material, but it cannot shield you from an eruption. In a crowded woodworking shop, one wrong step in a tight passage, and stacked boards suddenly turn into a deadly trap. The footage captures a small factory floor with large panels stacked high and the workspace packed tight. The pressure to keep production moving forces everyone to navigate these narrow spaces, where each move is made inches from heavy loads. As one worker squeezes through the cramped gap, the unexpected happens. The machine pushes a wood sheet forward, knocking a worker off balance and sending him sprawling in a split second. There was no time to dodge, no room to escape. The hazard was built into the layout itself. Never, ever walk through confined spaces beside unsecured stacks. Materials under pressure can release suddenly, and in a tight passage, the worker has nowhere to go. Factories must respect space as much as speed. Clear walkways, barriers for stacked loads, and safe zones around heavy storage aren't optional. They're survival rules. On a steel fabrication floor, a forklift struggles with a massive load. The cylinder shifts, the machine tilts, and one worker makes a split-second decision. He tries to stop it with his own strength. A forklift was moving a load it should never have been handling. On its fork sat a giant steel cylinder, far too wide, far too unstable. The operator inched forward, the wheels straining under the imbalance. Everyone nearby could see it wasn't safe, but production pressures often silence caution. As the forklift turned, the load shifted. The huge steel cylinder's weight began to drag the forklift into a dangerous lean. In that split second, the operator jumped out and made the most dangerous move of all. He tried to hold up the tilting machine. He reached out, pressing his hands and body against the machine, trying to stop thousands of pounds from tipping over. But human strength against rolling steel is no match. The machine toppled, the load broke free, and in seconds, the forklift came down hard across the floor as others rushed to pull him clear from under. Never, ever try to stop a tipping forklift or its load with your bare hands or your body. Once heavy machinery or massive steel begins to fall, physics takes control. A forklift is not designed for oversized, unstable cylinders. Only proper lifting rigs, slings, and cranes are safe for such tasks, and operators must recognize when a load exceeds stability. Stopping the job is the safest decision. Don't forget to share what you learned today in the comments. Your insight could save a life. Take care.